Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Please join us in the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Yeah. Well, on behalf of the board, I welcome all members of the audience to this evening's meeting. This meeting is a working session of the board to conduct the business of the district. The agenda for today's meeting has been published, and the agenda items to be discussed and or voted on have been studied by the board members. I would like to introduce to the people participating in this meeting this evening, Recording Secretary Siobhan Fraser, Superintendent Dr. Michelle Reed, board members Amy Cass, David Kogan, Sandy Hayes, and Jacqueline McGurty. I am Bob Swain, and I currently serve as president of the board. An agenda for this meeting is available online at boarddocs.com. So our first order of business, or our second order of business here, is the approval of the agenda. Would the board like to make any changes to the agenda as it has been published? Okay, hearing none, is there a can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, thank you. So moved and seconded. I'm assuming no further discussion. Okay, I'll call for the vote. Guess we need to see the other screen to see the vote tally, don't we?
Perhaps, Siobhan, if you could put in the chat whether or not the vote tallied for us, please.
Oh, Siobhan's having some screen sharing issues. Alex is working on it. All right. Thank you, Siobhan. The motion carries 5-0. Thank you. All right. Our next order of business here is the superintendent's report. Dr. Reed.
Thank you, President Swain. Well, it's sure been a busy couple weeks since last we met. Really enjoyed the WASDA conference with each of you and had a chance to listen to some fabulous keynote presentations and some really genuinely strong musical talent from around the state. The young man who sang from Bellingham was, I thought, just very impressive. I also know that we've had our SIP visit, our recent one with North Creek High School, and felt like that was a really profoundly positive experience. Their last graduation rate for last year, I was really thrilled to hear Principal McDowell mention that it was 98%, and that actually this fall they've experienced higher attendance, daily attendance, than they might traditionally in a brick and mortar school. So I just think that's a testimony to how hard our teachers and support staff, principals, parents, and students are working this fall, even in these really challenging times. I've completed my pilot school visits to Wellington Elementary and Woodinville High School, met with students and parents at both sites, and popped into a number of classrooms. And there's a lot of teaching and learning going on that's pretty amazing right now. This afternoon, hosted our first communications roundtable with our North Shore retired staff that come together to help me stay connected to the community and help with some of the history of our district and how that really informs the future of our district. So very grateful to the number of staff who joined me this afternoon, as well as our communications department for facilitating and setting that up. I have the opportunity apparently next Monday to testify before the Senate Ways and Means Committee on projected costs for school reopening, so that as our legislature plans for the next session, that they have hopefully the best data possible and our best thinking on what the costs for reopening are. And we're very expectant that our Senate and representatives really have the best interests of all of us at heart. So looking forward to that conversation. Today was on a call with our high school principals with Providence Health Group to discuss piloting a mental health support online system. And I believe we'll have at least one, maybe a couple of our high schools that will choose to pilot this. And we're very excited to be included in this groundbreaking work in the state of Washington. Also want to share that last week our student board met and had a lot of robust conversation around the racial and educational justice work we're doing in the classroom, as well as discussing this mental health pilot with Providence. One of the unique features of the mental health pilot is it's very student-centric. The curriculum has been designed by students, and there's significant and substantial input required from students, and we're really excited about that. And finally, just want to mention that we have our thankfulness page on the website, thanks to Alex Clark, Shelby Reynolds, Lisa Youngblood Hall, and their forward thinking about really capturing those things we're thankful for. So I would encourage any of those of you listening or watching to consider hitting the link and sharing something you're thankful for. Because even in these very challenging times, we do have a great deal to be thankful for. So at this point, I think that's it, President Swain, for my report.
Thank you, Dr. Reed. Any questions? I just a quick one. I just some of you might have popped onto the WASDA session on mental health screening, which was really informative. Sounds like our program that we'll be participating in will have a pretty thorough student screener, if it's asking students to input how they're doing, I suppose. Is that kind of how you see it, Dr. Reed?
I believe so, yes. I think one of the reasons they're choosing to go more student-centric is they want to approach the topic and issue from students' perspectives rather than the adult perspective. So absolutely.
That's great. It's good to hear. Thank you so much. All right, we're now at association and public comments. I understand that there aren't any public comments this evening. No association comments either, I assume? I didn't see anything in the schedule. Okay, thank you. We'll move on to adoption of the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been approved and seconded. Any discussion? Well, okay, seeing none. Call for the vote. There we go. Thank you, Siobhan. Yes, the motion carries 5-0. Thank you. Our next item is action items. First item this evening, F1, addendum to extend the 2017-2020 collective bargaining agreement between the North Shore School District and the Public Professional and Office Clerical Employees and Drivers, local union number 763, representing bus drivers and McKinney-Vento drivers. Dr. Reed.
Thank you, President Swain. This is the contract that we had tentatively planned for a previous board agenda. So we reviewed it for a prior board agenda, but wanted to make sure that the membership for this association had an opportunity to ratify it prior to bringing it to you for approval tonight. I believe it's a fair contract and would recommend approving it.
Thank you, Dr. Reed. Any questions? None? Okay, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second. Thank you. Seconded by Director McGorty. Any further discussion?
President Swain, I just wanted to call out on the signature page. It has the board approval date of December 14th, and I just wanted to call that out so it can be edited for today's date.
Thank you, Director Kogan. Good catch there. We can have that changed before signatures are applied.
I also wanted to call out a thank you to the negotiating team for both sides, both the association and the team led by Abel Gurmai, our Director of Human Resources, in concert with Tracy Patterson, Joe Paperman, Dugan Harmon, and all of those that worked to bring this contract to closure.
Excellent. All right, if there's no further discussion, I'll call for the vote. Yeah. Excellent. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you. Our next and last action item for this evening is 2020 to 2023 collective bargaining agreement between North Shore School District and United Classified Workers Union 4795, representing food service employees. Dr. Reed.
Thank you, President Swain. This is the negotiated agreement, as it states, representing our food and nutrition staff. And again, I believe it's a fair contract that's been responsibly negotiated by both the association and the district. Juliana Fisher, Tracy Patterson, Abel Gurmai, and the team. So I would recommend approval of the contract.
Thank you, Dr. Reed. Any questions for Dr. Reed? Okay.
No, I'll just say, I thank you to the whole team. This is one of those moments where we've learned how valuable these employees are. And so it's nice to see a contract that begins to reflect that.
Yes, good. That's a good point.
Indeed.
Right. I think in both cases, right, with our transportation and food service folks really are the backbone of the work we've been doing here in the last 8 months.
Yeah, for sure. All right, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second. Thank you. It's been motioned for approval and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll go to Director Cass.
I just noticed a note from Siobhan that she'd requested that we do a voice vote
Okay,
due to some technical issues.
thanks for checking the chat for me there. All right, we have a motion to approve and a second. No further discussion, I'm assuming, right? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
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 All those against? Okay, motion passes 5-0. Thank you. All right, that is it for action items this evening. We are now moving on to performance reviews. We're going to take a look and listen to Dr. Reed's presentation on the monitoring report for superintendent parameter P11 budget planning. Dr. Reed.
Thank you, President Swain. It feels like we've spent the last couple hours discussing the budget planning strategies. And I appreciate our budget team led by our Chief Finance Officer, Tracy Patterson, presenting the plethora of documents, the PowerPoint, and all of the structure. So Siobhan, if you could pull up the monitoring report, if that's possible. I'm not sure. Okay, perfect. So at this time, February 23rd, 2020, I do believe, I want to certify that the information provided is correct and accurate. And I do believe, Siobhan, if you move to the blue, please. I do believe that consistent with parameter 11, I believe I am in compliance because I have not failed to consider board goal policies, utilize best practices for budgetary planning and financial reporting, and implementing data-driven needs-based resource allocation, and substantially involving all appropriate stakeholder groups. I must say our budget team has just been fabulous in these really remote times. The idea of just even negotiating a labor contract, honestly, remotely, much less budgeting, it's Herculean work. And I just want to thank all of those team members involved. So if this has been posted over the weekend, but I think we've got indicators to address each of the bulleted points on the upper list. So I guess I would just pause, since we've been doing nothing but talking about budget, to take any questions or have a discussion about it.
Thank you, Dr. Reed. All right, any questions from the floor here?
President Swain, maybe I'll start off and just comment about how nice it is to see the comprehensive budget document that we work on, that includes all the building budgets and the regional superintendent budgets, as well as the mission of the budget, which is to deal with educational excellence and equity in our school system. And I think it's really fabulous that we put our priorities to match our strategic plan with the budget, so that we can really bring this all together. So I really think that document is really well done. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Hogan.
I'll jump in if I may, and echo Director Kogan's comments, but I just can't compliment you enough, Superintendent Reed, on the stellar team that you have put together, who put this budget together. In particular, I always appreciate the input that we get from you and your team with respect to details that arise during the year, but how they're related to our strategic plan. And when something comes up, an opportunity or an issue with that may or may not have been foreseen with that impacts the budget, we get that information on a very timely basis. And if nothing else, I actually read through the entire set of documents, and my head is swimming. There's a reason I didn't go into this field, but if even I can follow it and understand what has been put in there, that just goes so far to show what kind of effort and detail and great explanations are in there to cover everything. So it's a terrific report, and thank you for your what's the word I'm looking for? Your attention to detail.
Oh, thanks, Director McGordy. I think the team has been very detailed, although we'll make sure we'll double check our dates on contracts.
Thanks. I'll jump in next. I also want to express my profound respect and appreciation for this work. Not only does the budgetary processes that have been created over the last couple of years allow us to really tie resources to achieving our strategic plan goals, but it's really the foundation that helped us react so deftly during this crisis. I believe like the structures were already there, and it was just a matter of then focusing more. And in fact, there was I like circled, maintaining the focus on the classroom was like the line in this that I circled the most. By having those structures in place, there was less guesswork for the instructional folks that had to quickly pivot. And I really believe it's because this foundational work was already done. So thank you, Superintendent Reed, and to all the team that worked so diligently on our beautiful budget status reports that really inform the board as well and allow us to quickly do some pivoting sometimes ourselves as well when we have to advocate for the business, for the district. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, it really has already all been said, and much more eloquently than I put it. So I'll just say ditto. And just a side note, I love the projection of calm that came out of that study session. For all that work, they still just, that attitude of we got this, we'll be fine, really is so reassuring right now.
Yes, I'll say ditto the same. I have to say, we all know that, you know, the staff that you've assembled, all these people know exactly what they're doing. They're just the consummate professionals, and they just know their stuff, and it helps us do our job. I'm sure it helps you do your job, Dr. Reed. I never come away from any of these, any kind of budget meeting or even a handout saying that, you know, why is this missing or is that missing? It's usually more detail than we can possibly consume in a single sitting. So I'd rather have that than, you know, running around looking for things. So thank you to the staff, and thank you for your hard work on this. I would have, I guess, one little comment or just request, I guess, and I know we've talked about this before, but as the legislature and the governor put together their budgets and we start looking at what's happening with education in any form on the budget side, you know, hopefully we can keep a placeholder for if we have to have other briefings. I'm sure we'll do it in the 2x2s and others, but if we do have a point where we need to have another sit down with staff and yourself, I'm sure we'd all be happy to do that. And then just Director Cass and Director Hayes, you guys are on top of it on the legislative advocacy, and please feel free to send out whatever you're hearing out there to the rest of the board and Dr. Reed, so we can pivot quickly if we have to. Thank you so much. All right, I think that is it. Any further comments? All right, is there a motion?
Actually, just one other thing I wanted to throw out there that I think everyone in the community can appreciate is the very conservative approach to the 4-year budget that was presented to us tonight, and sort of looking at a worst case scenario. And it was very conservative and very forward thinking, I think. So it was a good approach to have, and that people, they should take a look at it. It's a very solid approach.
Well said. All right. Thank you for all those comments and thoughts. Is there a motion from the floor regarding Dr. Reed's performance in this monitoring report? Its parameter, I should say.
I move to find Dr. Reed in compliance with the P11 budget planning parameter.
All right, thank you. Was there
I'll
a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Director Cass. Has been a motion to find Dr. Reed in compliance with parameter 11, and it's been seconded. Any further discussion?
I did want to make one comment, President Swain, and I forgot to do that in the presentation, but I know there was a request to make the enrollment in different scenarios, the demographics, to look at it. But in talking with our budget and finance staff, they wanted to match that enrollment projection to what we turned into the state, which was completely flat. So they can create separate documents, but didn't want to create confusion about what we've actually provided the state on the F-195.
That makes sense. Thanks for pointing that out. All right, we have a motion on the floor to find Dr. Reed in compliance with P11 in a second. Is there further discussion? None, seeing none, I'll call for the vote. Are we doing voice vote still or no? It looks like we're back online. So I hear otherwise. Let's see. Checking my chat. No, we're good. Thanks, Ron. All right. All right, the motion carries 5-0. Thank you. All right. That's it for performance reviews at the moment. Information items, capital project status report. Dr. Reed.
Thank you, President Swain. Siobhan, if you could bring that up, please. I think Dr. Paperman referred to this in our budget session. Just wanted to clarify that I think we're Well, actually, it's okay. I think you've had a chance to look at it. And are there any questions I can answer?
I have one really quick, Superintendent Reed. So for the Ruby Bridges report, report, I'm pretty sure it was based off September. And so, oh, thanks, Siobhan. There it is. So I know it takes several months to close out all the purchase orders and finish up all the accounting, but that's quite under budget looking kind of bar graph. So do we have a feel for if the project did come in under budget?
I believe the project has come in somewhat under budget for sure. I do know that almost weekly I'm signing something though that's attributed to Ruby Bridges, some furniture adjustment or curriculum materials, which are part of opening a new building. But I would say that yes, it is going to be coming in under budget. And again, a big thanks to our capital projects team led by Dree Ralph and of course, Joe Paperman. And it's, I think our design, well, I'm going to get it wrong. Anyhow, the manner in which we choose to design and build our facilities, the GCCM model, is really, I think we get a better building at much more efficient costs as well. So thank you for noticing that. I'll pass that along to them.
Yeah, it's just phenomenal work. So yeah, thank you to everyone.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I just wanted to jump in and just say what stellar stewardship, if I can get that out, of our resources and the funds that we have available. I mean, it's looking like those two major projects, potentially coming in under budget. And also, I'm just amazed at the progress already on at Inglemore. From the pictures of the concert hall. That's just, I thought it was just yesterday we're out there with the shovels starting the project. So congratulations. That's good.
Yeah, the Inglemore High School pictures are pretty fabulous. And I guarantee you it's not me that's been out there with the shovel, but it's such an exciting project. I think transformative project for our community and really centers on the values in our community. So it's one of my favorite projects to track. And again, big thanks to Dree Ralph as she leads that work with her capital projects team, and Joe Paperman, Dugan Harmon, Tracy Patterson, Paul Field, everybody that's just really staying focused on this project.
Anyone else? Okay. All right. Thanks for.
I think it'll be really exciting because I'm hoping when we cut the ribbon to open the building, we can actually all be there in person together.
That would be nice. That would be really nice. Excellent. Well, thank you for that report, Dr. Reed. We'll move on to another information item, Capital Projects Fund Allocation Report for August and September 2020. Dr. Reed.
Yeah, thank you, President Swain. Again, this was something we discussed briefly with Dr. Paperman in the study session. And these would be the fund allocation reports. And I think Joe both described some of the ups and downs of the capital projects funds and the vehicle transportation fund, which I appreciated him going into detail on that, because if you looked at it and otherwise didn't understand that detail, I think it could lead us astray. So if there are any questions I can answer for that, I'd be happy to do that.
Looks like we're good. Everyone all right? Okay. Thank you, Dr. Reed. Appreciate that. Next up, district budget status report for August 2020.
Thank you, President Swain. Again, we reviewed the 2020 August and 2020 September in the study session. And we've added a couple new sections to those reports, which I think we'll continue to modify. I appreciate the board's attention to our delineation between levy monies and state and federal monies. And I appreciate our business services team crafting a model that will help our community do a good job of being able to project if that is possible. And I think it'll also keep us focused and on track as we think about future ballot proposals. So I don't know that I have anything to add to what was presented, but would be happy to answer questions.
All right, any comments on either of those budget reports? We can just lump them together, I think, August, September.
Yeah, no, it was nice having the opportunity to talk about it in the study session, actually. I really appreciated that. So and to be able to compare the old version and the new version, that was very handy.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, thank you, Dr. Reed, appreciate it. Thank you for those updates. Now we'll move on to policy reviews. We will review the policy or the parameter P11, budget planning. We could pull that document up, Siobhan, thank you. For the audience again, we do the monitoring report on the parameter, and then we pull the parameter up just in case something we think of things to add or clarify. Does anyone have anything that they'd like to chat about on this?
I will add that last year, because Tracy Patterson and I review this document as we prepare it, a new add a year ago in item number 1 was the word sustainable. And little would we know how key that one word actually became. So I just thought that was at some level a bit ironic, but there you have it. We were foreshadowing.
Maybe not ironic so much as prescient.
Oh, nice.
Anyone have any thoughts?
I think this this policy is nicely detailed, and honestly, the reports that we just heard covered everything. So I think it takes it all into account.
You know, I did a presentation at annual conference last week on policy governance, and it's caused me to reflect how effective these were, because we've had to change very little. In fact, that was one of the questions I got, was how much changes did you have to do due to COVID? And really the way that we wrote these, obviously having no idea that a pandemic was coming, and for them to still be what we need and reflective of the work we're doing is really, really quite remarkable.
Mm-hmm.
Pandemic proof policies.
PPP.
There's been a lot of alliteration tonight.
Dr. Cass, do you have anything?
No, I'm good. I'm assuming we're doing P12 next time, the financial administration. I love doing those side by side in terms of the planning, and then, more detail in the stewardship. I find that really helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I just love my takeaway from tonight is I love how our facilities parameter got us electric buses because of our carbon footprint line. It just warmed to my heart. It was great.
Yeah, that was excellent to see.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's also Dr. Paperman's vigilance and commitment to that carbon footprint, right? The green work. He's resolute in that, and I really appreciate that.
As do we.
The only thing I have, I love Director Kogan's question about 3% budget fund balance. It'll be great to hear, if staff has recommendations, as we move on. We'll have to see what kind of shape we're in after the legislative session, of course. And but if staff has any thoughts, or Dr. Reed, you have suggestions if there's a change that needs to be made there. I thought it was interesting. I think Mike Bailey had kind of thrown out that, it's sometimes a district could put like another layer of it, like there's a 3% minimum plus, and you could add something else to that if we thought that was appropriate, but we'd obviously need to have some reasons for it and some thought put into it. So that'll be, if you do have that recommendation, we'd love to see it later on as we move down the process.
I think we all made a note to have a conversation about that in terms of what our most strategic and sustainable option might be.
Mm-hmm.
The one thought that came into my head, and thank you again, Director Kogan, for bringing it up, that this will be a balancing act, I think, in maintaining our minimal fund balance and yet being able to pay for the business of the district at the same time. So whatever we do, whatever input we can help with, just let us know. I wanted to also comment just with respect to our policy governance. The other thing that came up at the annual conference that I thought spoke well with respect to how we have our policies put together is that we have equity built into them. And in our review process, such as with this, where we have implementing data-driven, needs-based resource allocation, every time we review a policy, we make sure that equity is built into it. And it's always good to see how much is in there without having to go back and reinvent the wheel with each review.
Thank you, Director McCurdy. Anyone else?
One last thought, President Swain, on your idea about keeping an eye on the legislative session to see if any sharp movements by the legislature might want us to reopen that question about the fund balance. The timing, I'm thinking of Mike Bailey's calendar, right? And so in February and March, when staff are starting to pull their planning together, that might be, if session, I don't know if, who knows if session's gonna be late or not. We're not gonna want to wait to the end of session. I should get to the point to wait and really see what they do to decide as a board if we want to increase our minimum fund balance, because the planning by staff will have started in February. So we're going to want to keep that in mind, and be really cognizant of that. If we're reading the tea leaves in late February, that things are looking to pull our finances really sharply, we probably should hop on that pretty fast. And I don't know if we have to do anything more formal than just recognize that, but we're probably going to want to not wait till June, basically, if we want to change that as a board.
I think this is going to be a really good conversation at our upcoming 2x2 meetings. So I think it is very timely as a topic.
Good points, Director Cass. I totally agree. Yeah. All right. Well, we will get discussion there. We'll move on. No changes to the parameter at this time. We'll move on now to discussion. North Shore Innovates, North Shore Learns. Dr. Reed.
Thank you, President Swain. Again, what an exciting time here in North Shore. And as I indicated earlier, I've had an opportunity to be in a number of classrooms and just a lot of teaching and learning going on. So really grateful for the opportunity to be part of that classroom experience and also to hear from students and parents and staff. I did have several of the Woodinville High School students in our visit talk about their appreciation for having Schoology or having a learning management system. And while they appreciate the frustrations of learning how to work through all the challenges, it's something that they're really, I think, appreciating. I've also heard that from parents, so I appreciate the positive energy there. I thought I would share this evening just a couple slides with you. We invested a year ago in a tool called iReady, which is a reading assessment and math assessment tool that also provides practice materials. And Siobhan, if you could pull the math slide for first grade through fifth grade. I wanted to share with you as a board, I shared it at a community coffee this afternoon, but Thank you, Sharon. We'll just leave it right there for the moment. This one slide, there we go. And if there's any way to make it a little larger, but I don't know if there is. Oh, perfect. Oh, that's fabulous. Thank you, Sharon. So what I thought I would share with you, because I think this data is just so interesting, but this on the left is 1920 in the fall, and on the right is 2021 for grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, 4, and 5. And the dark green is mid to on grade or above level, or early to on grade is the light green. So the more students in green, the better in terms of being on track. And the yellow is 1 grade level below, the sort of salmon is 2 grades below, and the dark red is 3 grades below. And I think it's important for us to think about where we are after really, if you will, closing brick and mortar schools in March. And the narrative that we're going to have a huge, like there's been this huge learning loss. And this is one data point, one content area. We could pull up reading in a minute, but not yet, Siobhan, please. So I might have 2 data points, math and reading. But I just wanted to share this with you to pretty much present this idea that I think there's a lot of learning going on in our classrooms right now. And while there are students still behind, the percentages have not exploded in terms of being behind. And in some, I'm not entirely sure what to make of all of the data in terms of honestly how positive it sort of looks. So we'll also be looking at end of the year data. So hopefully we'll have fewer yellow, salmon, and red percentages. But overall, I think this is a pretty interesting story for kindergarten or for first grade. This would be last year's kindergartners, last year's first, because this is the grade past. So very interesting. And then if we, Siobhan, let's go to the next slide. I think it was grades 6, 7, and 8. And again, in mathematics, and these are fairly content-rich years for mathematics. A little more of a lag here, but still not the overwhelming sort of negative impact that I might have expected, or in some cases, there is a bit of a story out there about this giant learning loss due to being in a distance learning model. And right now, the data is not necessarily showing that. So I just, Sherman, could you go to our reading data, please? So this is our reading. We had math previously, and I think in some ways the reading is even more interesting. And then thank you, Siobhan, our middle school reading next, please. Oh, wait, Siobhan, it says math, but it is reading on the far right. There we go. Thank you.
Wow.
So we can stop the screen share, Siobhan. Thank you. So yeah, I just wanted to share that as a kind of an example in both math and reading, which are our key, if you will, core content areas, K-8. And just want to say bravo to our students for working so hard, our parents for being such thoughtful partners, and our teachers for working so tirelessly. I mean, it's much harder work to do what we're doing now than it would be to be back in the classroom. Our educational support professionals, our principals, all those involved. It's just the data, I think, is pretty positive right now. So I'd be happy to have any kind of conversation about that or discussion, or we can also have a further discussion at a subsequent time.
Thank you, Dr. Reed. Any questions?
Yeah, Dr. Reed, I might add, had I not seen the data, I might have suspected it would look differently. So I think it's always neat when you see some things that are kind of different than what you anticipate, but I'm so pleased to see that we're showing such stability and strength in reading and math for our students. So thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, thanks, Director Kogan. I was starting to suspect a different pattern as I listened to each school's report and saw their beginning of the year data. And so the iReady team met with our regional assistant superintendents to prepare the data deck. And I'll send all of the data to you in your Friday brief. But I was very surprised. I have to tell you, I shouldn't say very, but I was, because, I think you read enough times about the terrific learning loss, and there is loss, obviously, for some students. Having said that, I don't know, it's an unfortunate truth that we weren't meeting all needs previously either. So I think it's an illuminating data point that we'll have to continue thinking about what to do about it.
Yeah, this is really encouraging. I mean, I think we all wondered at the beginning of our virtual learning experience what kind of difference we might see due to accessibility, whether the lack of accessibility for some of our students or the fact that we had such great attendance once we went online and perhaps they were engaging more. I think one of the first things that I look for in this type of a chart is to follow the cohort from year to year, as opposed to first grade one year and first grade the next year, because you have different students there. I think what I was seeing is that the cohort, if you follow the cohort, it was also an improvement, not just the two different classes side to side. So that's really terrific. It'll be good to follow this and see where it goes. So thank you.
Yeah, no, I liked how Director Kogan phrased it, stability, which, in a time that feels quite unstable, it's nice to see something that points to stability. I absolutely agree. And I also appreciate the fact that you and the rest of the team found a way to try to quantify how things are going for students. So thank you for that and bringing it up. Here it is, mid-November, only partway through the first semester. So it's nice to know folks are diving in and taking a look at the data and zeroing in to see where are the areas that we need to continue to improve. So thank you.
Nope. Dr. Hayes?
No, again, all the better words have been used.
Dr. Reed, that was, that's I don't want to say surprising data, but kind of is, like Director Kogan had mentioned. You would expect different visual. Do you have any sense of how many other districts are using iReady as a assessment tool?
I don't. And I don't want to leave the impression that that's the only tool we use.
Sure.
It's a data point in time. But if it was a negative data point in time, it doesn't have more or less merit, right? Like, it's a tool, but I know a number of districts do. I don't know how many.
I was just curious. I mean, like you said, it's a point in time, and as we move through the school year and new curriculum, new information students receive and testing them, I'm assuming we'll run assessments again or throughout the year, or maybe at the end of the year.
Absolutely. And what this was a snapshot of, probably, I guess, was 2 data points in time, a year ago in the fall and this year in the fall. My text a friend, Obadiah Dunham, indicated that Everett, Edmonds, and Tacoma all use iReady as well.
Thank you. I was just thinking about our broader discussions on SBAC and standardized testing, and how, it'll be great to, if the numbers still are positive as we move through this, to somehow put together a report for our friends at OSPI and the state legislature about how we've done and what the results look like, and the time and money savings that is potentially gained in an alternative measuring tool. That would be nice to see.
I know our staff has appreciated this particular tool because it both provides the assessment and then some dynamic practice time. And last spring, I believe it was fairly heavily used because it's remote, right? Students were able to access it online and practice their math and reading. So I think it dovetailed nicely, because in some ways they may have actually used more of it than they would have in a brick and mortar classroom, because we were remote. So
Yeah, besides the fact you're not, upending the school day when we have to, kids have to set some time aside, you have to have proctors and all of that scheduling nightmare that we go through every year. All right, well, thank you, Dr. Reed. Anything else on North Shore Learns?
I think that's it for the moment.
All right, any other questions on other topics, anyone? Okay, great. All right, we'll move on to board reports, communications. Is there any new business?
So I just have one. In the spirit of modeling self-care and good mental health, Dr. Reed, I'm assuming you have blocked off your 2 days of Thanksgiving weekend that you will not be responding to email or taking phone calls.
I think I would love to get caught up in my email. So I don't know which days I'll take off, but thank you. I think that's a fabulous suggestion. My family would thank you.
Yeah, I think as a board, we are recognizing that perhaps you haven't had 2 days off since February, and that might be a good role model for our students.
Especially 2 consecutive days.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's probably true. Thank you for noticing.
Was that February of 2016?
Anyone else? I lost Director Kogan on my screen here. Oh, there he is. I'll bring this up now. I could probably share it under board member reports, because we have things to talk about probably that we learned over the conference. But I thought it was really interesting reading or listening to the hot topics with Superintendent Reichdahl and our and Tim. The one thing that jumped out to me, there were many things that jumped out actually, but the one thing I didn't realize is that trying to get more specific data on students that select two or more races in our demographic data. I thought that was really interesting how he said that if someone just picks 2 or more races, but they also, if they pick Hispanic, if they also even if they decide to declare what those are, that they automatically go into the Hispanic count, so that they're looking at the overall data, and so we're probably losing potentially head count on the Black population and Native American. So they're trying to, OSPI wants to try to get more detailed in that count, or trying to get people to be more specific, so we don't lose head count for that factors into services and et cetera. So I think I don't know if he's going to have an official ask or whatever for districts to try to dial into that number a little better, but I think we've brought that topic's come up in the past, I think, when we go at SIP visits, because we don't really know who's in that category. Any thoughts on that, Dr. Reed?
I did not hear the hot topics session, so I think I probably ought to maybe hear a little more specific information about thoughts on that. I think the state really is very clear on how we're supposed to report data. Mm-hmm. And let me just check here already. Alan Miedema just texted me, the kids do tell us the granular data and we have it already. So I guess the question is, how do we pass that along? So yeah, I think a further conversation on that topic would be really helpful.
Yeah, that's great. All right, thank you.
President Swain, I think
Yeah.
maybe what it was that the state of Washington, when they submit it to the federal reporting, that's when it gets rolled up. 2 or more races equals Hispanic.
Mm.
So I think that might be where the overcount is happening, is the federal level.
I think you're right. Yeah, because it is a kind of a federal mandate how the categories are set down. Great. Well, that's a good topic for further discussion. Any other new business? I think you all shook your heads. All right, great. How about board member reports to wrap up? Director Kogan, you're first up.
Thank you, President Swain. My board report is I was attending on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday of this past week the WASDA annual conference. I'll reiterate and restate that I did enjoy many of the sessions and got some great tips and found it really stimulating. And I hope Dr. Reed doesn't mind if I add my favorite part of the conference was Thursday when they announced the Washington State Superintendent of the Year. And I just want to extend my congratulations to Dr. Reed and say how lucky North Shore is to have you as our superintendent. Thank you.
Thanks.
Director Cast.
Thanks, President Swain. I also enjoy the WASDA annual conference, including the lunchtime Thursday announcement of the superintendent of the year. That was lovely. And just one other thing to add to goings on November 10th. Director Hayes and I attended a legislative 101 session that WASDA put on, where they asked us in 5 minutes, which was plenty of time actually, to talk about what we do as a district in terms of interacting with our legislators and how we keep them up to date and keep that relationship going. So that was great to be able to help spread a little learnings that Director Hayes started when she started as legislative representative years ago. So it was fun. And the point I'd like to conclude on is in the spirit of the gratitude website, gratitude webpage on our website, I just want to say thank you to everyone. I hope everyone has a restful and peaceful Thanksgiving. I know it's probably not the same that a lot of people would like, but at the same time, we have a lot to be grateful for, and I'm certainly, it'll be great to be on the dais with you all, but I still am very appreciative of all the meetings we're able to do. So thank you.
Thank you, Director Cast. Director McGurty.
Oh, sure. Make me follow that. Thank you, Director Cast and President Swain. I too had the pure joy of hearing our rock star superintendent named Superintendent of the Year. And I attended Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, the WASDA annual conference. It started with a terrific pre-conference workshop on leading for equity, which I attended on Wednesday. It was just fabulous, and some terrific ideas of approaches for equity work. I think the annual conference was a smashing virtual success. Again, everything virtual for the first time, in particular with the focus on equity. And there was a workshop by Ijeoma Oluo, which I think if you have a chance to watch that, everything was recorded, so it should be accessible. So that was terrific. And a big takeaway from me, if I can take a second, was just how incredibly fortunate we are in the North Shore School District. I think President Swain brought this up earlier, but some of the reports from some of the districts who are struggling between low income and broadband deserts, huge broadband deserts, and trying to make all of this work for their students makes me very thankful for what we have here and the opportunities that we have here in North Shore. I also attended on Thursday, November 12th, the North Shore Schools Foundation board meeting, as well as WASDA networking call. On Monday, November 16th, there was also a PTSA council meeting, which I attended, and it was wonderful and telling to see how similar our legislative priorities are to our PTSA colleagues. And then on Tuesday, November 17th, it was my extreme pleasure to attend the North Creek High School SIP visit virtually. I was just so impressed by the work that they're doing. And I really felt, this is the boots on the ground in our equity work. Their goals and their targets are so aspirational. I just think they're doing a wonderful job for our students. So that's me.
Well, thank you, Director Hayes.
Thank you, President Swain. So I will echo a lot that also attended the annual conference. I had a number of sessions where I was the presenter that then were repeated, and I had to be there in the chat box to answer questions as they were playing. So spent a lot of time having to watch myself on screen, which was not pleasurable, but also was not able to attend some of the other sessions. So I'm looking forward to being able to really dig into those and my learnings from those. So I also, like Superintendent Reed, have been summoned to testify in front of the House Education Committee on Monday. So while she's in front of the Senate Ways and Means, I will be virtually in front of the House Education Committee. They asked 3 board members from around the state to talk about the thinkings and going forward in the Education Committee in the House. So I will be doing that. And then my gratitude, obviously echo all of what has been said in terms of gratitude, but I just want to do a couple of shout outs. We have crested 17,000 books that we have been able to get to our students. And we've had 2 large donations, one from the Nile for You nonprofit that was started by 2 of our students. They did a book drive for us. Collected 250 books, and those were delivered. They're beautiful. And then Third Place Books continues to be taking a percentage of sales and allocating, and then also delivered about 3 boxes of just beautiful books for young adults. So we still have lots of books. We know with the next 3 or 4 weeks that kids are going to be wanting books to read. So any staff members that are attending, please feel free to share the link with your students, because we're still going strong and our volunteers are ready to keep going at it. So just so much gratitude to this whole community for joining in this work. It's really making a difference.
Thank you, Director Hayes. Well said. I'll wrap up here. I also was able to attend a lot of the conference. It is a kind of a blessing that it's all recorded though, because if you have to pick up a call or something, you can go back and rewatch it or pick up where you left off. So it was great. And then was on the SIP visit with Director McGurty, Dr. Reed at North Creek. Excellent work that's going on over there. It was really fun to see teachers in action online, and then also students presenting. It was really a great experience seeing what was going on there and online, and seems like kids and teachers have kind of hit their stride at this point, seems to be. So that was great. It was really well done. So thank you for putting that on, Dr. Reed and staff at North Creek. I just want to also say congratulations again publicly to Dr. Reed for her award of Superintendent of the Year. Well deserved, of course. Also, our board was lucky enough to be declared a board of distinction again this year. And I want to say I personally am very honored and humbled to work with all of you on the board. I learned so much from all of you, and you all have such great gifts to offer. It's just been a pleasure. So thank you for that. I'll end on that note, and on behalf of the board and Dr. Reed and the staff of North Shore, we wish you all a happy Thanksgiving and be safe out there. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Good night, all.
Thanks, everyone.
Happy Thanksgiving.